For the aspiration number 2, we talk about the justice and benevolence. As I mentioned, that justice and benevolence is the concept coming from the concept of al-adlu wal-ihsan. Even though I should mention the word of al-adlu only, but we, as far as we concern and our discussion, we must intertwine it with the benevolence, because the concept of justice and benevolence is also can embed the element of qiyam wal akhlaq. We want to also embed the element of values and ethics in this aspiration as well. Okay, number 1, we'll talk about the justice. Justice is the most, al-adlu actually is the most ultimate maqasid as mentioned by Ibn Ashur. And even Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayyah when Sheikh Abdullah Bayyah elaborate the concept of adlu mentioned by Ibn Ashur, Sheikh Abdullah Bayyah put al-adlu as the highest top maqasid in the financial transaction, is to serve the justice, to serve the justice. But by looking into the justice itself, I think the concept of justice is very big to be interpreted, because at the end, are we referring to the jurisdiction system, or we are looking into the law? Are we looking into the bring something to the court to make sure it is justice or not? So the discussion is very big in this area, but by looking into the financial transaction itself, the justice is coming from the parties that doing the financial transaction. So our focus on the justice and benevolence is not focusing on the concept of justice, but we are focusing how to make ourselves the parties that in the financial transaction can do justice by their own, internally. So for example, I'm the seller, I am responsible to be the seller. If you are a buyer, you are responsible buyer. You are trying to make just as possible. As the Prophet always mentioned, that if you sell something, if you sell something, sell as if you are a buyer. As if you are a buyer. If you are buying something, buy it as if you are a seller. So just to make sure that you are responsible enough. When we do the transaction, we must have the responsibility towards our transaction, and we put the justice enough to ourselves to that. For example, in this case, there are, just a second, principles that we put on under the justice and benevolence. Number 1 is to foster the ethical and learning culture. As an entities, for example, I am a company. I do a good business. I make a very good profit. When I make a very good profit, do I do justice? Did I do justice enough internally to my staff, for example? I have a staff that give me a lot of effort and maximize my profit. At the end of the day, the question is, am I paying them a good compensation, a fair compensation or not? Or I just make it, you do whatever I ask you to do. At the end, the profit is mine. I don't care what happened to you. So under the principle number 4, for example, how to do justice is to promote the learning culture through research and training, fostering individual and collective excellence, and maintaining an atmosphere supporting ethical behavior, such as avoiding greed, to cultivate a society that upholds the principles of justice. So it is something that can be measured, I believe, where there are certain policies in the entities can have that kind of adoptions. For example, they can take a look at the ratio allocation, for example, for the staff, to make sure that they continue to develop in the organization. This is another things that we are looking at into the entities, or probably we can see it more on the what we call it, the culture that have in the certain organization. So this is one part of doing the justice and benevolence to the organization, to the product and the services. Number 5 is promoting efficiency and avoiding the wastage. To promote efficiency, highlight implementation of efficient and effective action in the market while maintaining the fair competition. Avoiding wastage, in the other hand, emphasize optimizations of resources. Yes, we want to do the justice to organization, not only to the people, but to the organization in themselves. Are we efficient enough? Because efficiency is also related to the wastage. Related to the wastage. If you are efficient, actually you are avoiding yourself on the wastage. If you are not efficient in the way you are you are having a wastage in your organization. So any policies that related to that also contribute into the attain and alignment with the principle number 5. And number 6, for example, upholding the best practice code conduct and ethical values, adhering to the exemplary standards, ethical guidelines, moral principles, and all aspects of behavior and decision making with integrity, fairness, and justice. I'm giving you an example for multinational company. Yeah, they have a lot of jurisdictions to bear on. Company like yeah, we have a lot of jurisdictions, some highly regulated, less regulated. But even though we are in the less regulated jurisdiction, for example, we still abide with the best practice code, conduct, and ethical values. So we are not play around with the what we call it, the less what we call it, the less jurisdiction, less regulated jurisdiction. So we want to make sure that we uphold to the ethical standards in the organization to make sure that we are doing the justice and benevolence in our financial transaction. That's the aspiration number 2 that we want to achieve in the what we call it in our objective.